Well, thank you, Pam, and hello, everybody around the world. We have a tremendous audience with us today, and we're excited to be with you, and particularly with our three guests, who I'll introduce in just a moment. Before that, a few things that are on the hot topic list today. The Delta variant. Everybody's reading and talking about this around the world. It's a more dangerous and transmissible Delta variant than was first identified in India. And it's now spread to at least 77 countries. And easily said, we're not out of the woods yet. We're seeing the CDC put out some information on this morning, which is very important that we all need to be aware of around the world. The variant also has spread here in the United States, making up about 20% of all the cases right now in the U.S. And this has fueled the experts' concerns about COVID spikes here as we move into the peak of the summer. Some states are starting to reintroduce mask guidance for public indoor and outdoor, regardless of the vaccination status. And that's a concern also that we're watching. The World Health Organization has said that the spread is now outpacing vaccinations, and they're encouraging everyone around the world that can get vaccinated. At this point in time, only 15% of the globe or the world's population is vaccinated. As we look at the travel scene, still countries have begun to ease their domestic lockdown rules, and many have instituted their own rules relating to quarantines and vaccinations and travel restrictions and visa rules. And we're going to hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes from one of our guests. Here in the U.S., and more and more people are flying. Just this past week, the TSA checkpoint numbers indicated that traveler throughput was at about 84% of the amount in 2019. So it's up considerably. And this weekend, for our 4th of July holiday weekend, it's anticipated that about 43 million are going to hit the highways over the weekend. So it's a huge number, the largest we've seen in the last few years. This happens at exactly the same time that gasoline prices are rising to a 7-year high. The last time we saw this was back in the early 2000s, and gasoline prices definitely have an impact on the industry. So we'll be watching that closely, but at this point in time, it doesn't seem to be holding people back. As we look at the continuing issues with the workforce, we've been talking about the lack of workers in the U.S. and how parks are having to cut hours and days, as well as increasing pay per hours to attract employees. And this is an ongoing problem. It seems to be moving in a gentle curve up and down. Some parks are anticipating, as we saw in the ITPS news today, that they're going to be short on employees as they move into the middle and latter part of July. Employers are now facing another dilemma in the U.S., and that is the burned out and exhausted workforce. It seems like over the past 18 months, as we've been going through this pandemic and working at home, it started to take its toll on the minds and the health of the workforce. So a lot of companies are taking steps to try to ease that concern with workers. And there's an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal that outlines some of the things some of the companies are doing. A recent survey showed that 40% of Americans say they felt burned out while working at home this past year, and some 42% said that they'd look for another job if required to return to the office full time. Plus, 72% said they wanted more flexibility regarding going back to work. So we're going to talk about the work issue here in a few minutes, but it is an ongoing issue that just is crazy. Over at SeaWorld, a good friend of ours, longtime industry guy, Tom Ivan, has just been named COO of the SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment Company, and we wish Tom good luck in his new job, and hope he does very well there. I'm sure he will. Halloween, just around the corner. We're seeing already at this point in time Halloween being promoted early anticipation of a high Halloween season. And as we all know, Halloween is a big event clearly around the world now. So hopefully the Halloween and any COVID spikes don't hit together. So we're watching that closely, and we'll be talking more about Halloween, the importance of it, on the future podcast. I'm excited today. This is episode 21 of our I'm for Fun podcast, and really excited that we have three well-known and great guys who are joining me today to talk about the rides, manufacturing, supply side of the industry. In no certain order, let me just introduce them. First is Sasha Sabolka. He's Executive Vice President and Managing Director with Intamin Rides. Sasha got his start as Sales Director for the North and South America when he was with Huss Rides, and soon became one of their Senior Vice Presidents. He's been with Intamin since about 2000. He oversees Intamin sales and marketing activities, as well as a number of administrative efforts such as legal and contractual, insurance, and patent law matters that are more of the boring things in our industry, but certainly very important. Sasha is highly involved with IAPA and in the M&S community, and he served a 5-year term on the board of directors of IAPA, and he was completely engaged. I served some time with him at that time. Valerio Ferrari, Chief Sales Officer with Antonio Zamperla, one of our great organizations in the company, in the industry. Valerio has been with Zamperla since 1991, left for a short stint and came back, and he really has greatly contributed to the growth of Zamperla, and he was heavily involved with in the realization of the first Zamperla amusement park here in the United States in Central Park in New York, and also in the reopening of the Luna Park, opening of Luna Park at Coney Island, and in the relaunch of Minitalia in Leolandia in Italy, and certainly a well-known gentleman throughout the industry. And Kelven Tan, Vice President, Business Development, Asia with Dynamic Attractions. Kelven is a 30-year veteran and has held roles in entertainment, operations, attractions, development in the industry. And these have included attractions around the world and in Asia, Singapore. He's been involved in FEC developments throughout Asia and with Chinese mythological theme parks. Kelven, too, has served on the IAPA Board of Directors and numerous committees, and I've known Kelven for a long time, and he's certainly one of our great guys in the industry. Kelven's currently in China after a laborious process of getting there, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, gentlemen, good morning, good evening. You're all over the world right now, and welcome to the I'm for Fun podcast, and thanks for joining me today. I'm going to dive right in. Let's see, I've got a lot of screens here. Sasha, I think I'll start with you, if you don't mind, and then we'll just move around a little bit. You currently are in Belgium, I believe, at an IAPA event, which is one of the first events that we've had since COVID hit. How are things going there, and what's happening?
Well, the great thing is that we are getting the opportunity to reconnect, get together, to see industry peers, to see clients, and to visit parks and facilities which are in operation with guests. Yesterday, we had a fantastic day here in Belgium at Walibi Wavre near Brussels, experiencing rides, and it was just great. We're also lucky with the weather. Today it's a little bit more rainy, but it's so nice to be able to be out there and reconnect. I think I can speak for everyone here at that IAPA Spring Forum. It's so great to see each other again and have the face-to-face experience rather than the online thing, which we're having now.
Well, exactly, and I think this is a great example. We got three great companies from our industry in one sense you're competitors, in the first sense you're good friends and you've known each other for a long time. Valerio, how's it going with you over at Zamperla? How are things going right now? And what are you seeing out there in the industry as it relates to this comeback in our getting open again?
Thank you, Dennis. You know, for sure, it's been a very difficult time for everybody in our industry. The 2020 we went through, we slide through since we have many purchase orders from 2019, and of course some of them got a little delayed, some of them got postponed, but none of them got canceled. So we were able to go through 2020 quite smoothly. And actually, it's a little bit more difficult in 2021 since all our clients were closed last year. But we see already some pickup. The business is picking up toward the end of this 2021 and the beginning of 2022. So there is a very, very positive attitude out there. You know, I was discussing earlier with Sasha that I visit a few clients in the North American market, which is probably the one ahead of everybody else as far as vaccination, and where the amusement parks are, most of them open in full speed. And when I would start talking to them, they were saying, oh, we don't do anything. 2023, we start talking about something. But now they're coming back to us, hey, you got nothing that you can deliver in a few months. So they're already getting excited because they see the numbers are coming in very, very positively for the beginning of the season. You know? So
that's great.
It's been very difficult for everybody else, but we see the lights at the end of the tunnel, and that's the important thing.
Kelven, you're over in China right now, and talking with you the other day, you told us about your laborious effort. It took about 5 months, I think you said, to be able to be in China. Give us a quick overview of what's happening there now. I mean, we're all interested in Asia and China, and we're all anxious to get back. I haven't been there in 16 months now, and we've got things going on over there. It's hard to really understand what's happening. We'd love to hear what you've got to say.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be invited here, and thank you so much for that. It's great to see Valerio and Sasha and you, I mean, despite it being on Zoom. I think in all our minds, we can completely remove 2020 from all our minds and calendars. For most of us, for the last 18 months, it's been just a change, right? Probably we just need to remove 2020 and we just carry on.
Forget it, yeah.
It's taken a long time for me to get back here, and that's because I'm quite sure every country has its own travel restrictions and stuff. So over in China now, they have this thing called the health code, which I have too here. It's a live thing that allows very good tracking. I mean, if we put aside all forms of political ideology and all that, the tracking device that you have on the phone, or whether it's Big Brother or not, actually works. It helps at least to track and contain. And that helps in making sure that, where there's a Delta variant outbreak, which recently was happening in Guangzhou, but they locked down really quickly. Not so much of trying to curb anything more than just to make sure that those who are affected, whether asymptomatic or not, they're identified and isolated, just to stop or slow down the spread. I think that it's quite a good thing to happen. And then after the 2 weeks, they're okay, they're tested fine, everything comes back to normal again. So for me, other than wearing masks at trains and in public places, when I'm in the restaurants, it's normal. People go to the movies, they wear the mask. Everything is pretty normal. Meetings, you don't have no mask on because everybody, they know that. I mean, the joke is, they used to ask in China, 你好吗?吃饱了吗? Have you eaten? Right now is 你打了吗? That means, have you been vaccinated?
Yeah. Same here.
So it changed, yeah. But certainly, I think what I've seen over here is a huge boom in domestic tourism. Literally, not many foreigners except those who are already here or permanently here. But domestic tourism the government here, at least in China, for every occasion that they can find, they try to arrange it for a long weekend or super long weekend.
Yeah.
So that kind of encourage a lot of 3 to 4 day travel time. And we all know that China has numbers, right? So very quickly they can have a lot of millions of people travel over the weekend, at least to try to boost those domestic tourism. So where people can't fly away or fly anywhere, I think that with a pent-up demand, sure. So domestic tourism has picked up tremendously, at least over here. I can't quite comment for the rest in Asia because travel is really hard. I just hope that we could somehow get some more information. Yeah, that's for my part for it.
Yeah, thank you. That's hold that up one more time. That on your phone. And tell us what you called that again.
It's called a health code.
Yeah,
right. It's
and that's is that your driver's license or your
my passport cover?
Passport cover. Okay.
Yeah, but for everybody else, they could have QR code, or I could have QR code too. And the thing is, it has a running ring around it to show that it's in real time, live. So if you and I were in the same restaurant an hour ago, and maybe 3 days later, I have COVID, and if you have a health code, your health code will turn yellow or red, means that you have to go get checked out.
So it tells me that I was in proximity to you. Let somebody know
around that time, and around that time, and everybody in that time, please go get checked out.
Yeah, well, that's a great system, really. Sasha, I'm going to ask all three of you this question. I'll go back to you, Sasha, and kind of start out again. You touched on you're at the first event that ITPS held and in the industry. How have each of you really stayed in touch with the consumer base, not being able to travel and be at trade shows? What has been the primary approach for you and your teams to do that, Sasha?
Well, obviously, the for us most important way to get in touch and directly communicate with our clients wasn't available. So it was mainly the usual telephone, old style, online, Teams, Zoom, all those things, email. So basically, if you so want, online mobile communication.
Was it easy to get with people, Sasha? Did they respond quickly when you reached out?
It was surprisingly.
Yeah.
It was kind of. I remember, and it's still there. Maybe not to the extent compared to last year, but there was a very high degree of solidarity within the entire industry.
Sure.
And for us, in particular, when we were confronted with the crisis in the middle of March last year, with the very strict lockdown and not being able to cross borders, that's when we realized there's really something going on. And we were lucky that at that time we had really nicely filled order books. Our concern was more so, how do we get the things done in time as committed, rather than being confronted with, well, am I going to be able to open up tomorrow and welcome my guests, which our clients had.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone was fighting the situation and trying to understand it, because I think that was the biggest issue at the very beginning, that no one had a clue what's going to happen, what we have to expect, what we have to look for. And nevertheless, you knew you need to prepare and you need to do something. And that was the time when there was a lot of exchange among the suppliers. I talked to many of our fellow competitors, with clients, obviously, and hearing what kind of problems and issues they're facing. So I think one of the few positive things is that it brought all of us more together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was kind of refreshing to get back on a telephone too, rather than texting somebody or doing this. Valerio, what about you guys? What about Zamperla? You're all over the world.
Yeah, we're also all over the world, and I couldn't agree more with Sasha. Solidarity was the most important aspect that you've seen happening during this difficult time, which is still on, of course,
Yeah.
and it was pretty amazing to see like old dogs like me, start using Teams and Zoom like no tomorrow, and or WhatsApp video, and so it was quite interesting actually to develop into this new arrangement, and of course, a lot of solidarity, like Sasha was saying, and then but also we took this opportunity of as a time to reflect to the way we do business, the way we approach our client, the way we present our product, and also we develop our new attraction. So it was also a lot of recoup within the organization, a lot of thinking and talking, and try to figure out how we're gonna be prepared when it opens up again. Okay, so we were, instead of keep crying and keep home, here and there, we were just thinking ahead, trying to be positive and see what we're gonna do next when everybody's gonna go crazy, everybody's gonna go to an amusement park, everybody wants to buy a ride. Are we gonna be ready for that big wave that is going to happen? Because we've seen that before. We've seen after 2008, we've seen after 2001, we've seen for every market. It was a big crash and then it opens up again. Only this time is worldwide. Usually it was differentiating different part of the world, but now it's global. Okay, so it's gonna be even bigger when it blows up again. And we need
it's
to
like almost like a big tsunami that's coming. I think we feel that. Yeah,
I hope so. I hope so. We hope so.
What about you, Kelvin?
Well, I like just
and let me add one thing to it. Over in China, it was hit first. It came back first. It had a little relapse, and now you were talking the other day. You said the business is really up. Kind of give us that overview. How's the pipeline packed over there right now for the manufacturers? What they're seeing?
Okay, there are three things maybe I should just run. First, I'd like to sum up what Sasha and Valerio said. Right? I just want to reinforce that. I think we're lucky for Dynamic because our order books were full. So for the 2020, we're kind of like busy trying to get it. This year in 2021, we have 8 rides open. The challenge about that would be the commissioning, the delay in the supply chain, the changes in freight costs, which has gone up astronomically.
Yeah. And
what do you do with that?
I have some questions coming for you guys on that, incidentally, so be prepared. Yeah, please proceed.
Yeah, so one example of the supply chain is hard hit is the freight, right? For example, yeah. But all in all, we're lucky in the sense that, and then there's also issues of people getting in, the commission rides. We have one ride in Japan that for the first time in our history, and I think, I don't know whether it's an industry history, is that we managed to commission the ride by remote, by video. Wow. Because we're so close in the way we've interacted prior to everything happening. So much so that now using a bit of more technology, we're able to commission the ride because of the systems are linked. And that allowed us to have the team, the client's team, be very much involved. And therefore, it worked out all fine. And there was like instant training. So that's cool. If you ask me about the pipeline, so one thing's for sure, we know we have some major parks opening in China. Well, the good thing is that the local guys are now getting the jobs or the tail end of the work where it used to be something that we can perhaps supply in full, right? So they now have the locals trying to help them in installation. So I guess just to support Valerio's point, right, we're trying to relearn how else we're trying to do this business and what makes it possible and viable. And that's, I think, what's happening for us as well. I'm over here in China more because, when you look around the Asia Pacific where I cover, there are action in everywhere, but generally, I think it makes sense because China as itself, they're starting to explode. There are a lot of ideas that's coming up that they want to do and what to do, right? So it's still worthwhile trying to come here. Other than the language issues, I'm quite sure there are a lot of Chinese listeners right now. I'm sure they understand what I'm saying. 但是如果需要的话，我可以翻译一下，好吗？因为大家在国内现在已经晚上4点半了。What I just said is late at night, but you probably turn on, and we probably know how many people have turned on. 我就很鼓励大家多有这种的交情啊，我们在这个市场，大家都是朋友。I said we're all friends, we're competitors, but yet we're friends.
Yeah.
And this is what this whole spirit of it, and that's why we're here, because we are in for fun, right, Dennis?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what our business is all about. And as I say at every I'm for fun, if we can't have it, how can we sell it? Sasha, question for you. This has come in from about 4 people. I'm going to start with you and we'll go across again. It said, as a manufacturer, supplier, and a planner who has to work closely with your chains of operations around the world, during this shortage, Kelvin, that you've just talked about, steel, wood, chips, everything else, how in the world are the companies coping with planning and pricing, particularly when it's reaching out 2 to 3 years at some level? Sasha, I'll start with you.
That's a really good question. And you almost could say it's the $1 million question at this very point of time. We have a very interesting situation, I think, where a couple of things which we had to cope with individually in the past, and then I think we all successfully did, they're now coming together. We see what Valerio mentioned before, and also Kelvin, that the industry is rebounding, and what Valerio described for the US, that especially the per cap is going up. I've heard that from the parks I visited last year, not that many, and only in Europe, obviously. They were already surprised by higher per cap spend than before. And although in most parts of Europe, operation just started a few weeks ago, the numbers are more than promising, and that adds to a very good spirit. And in some cases, the per caps are way above pre-COVID levels. So we do see that. That's a very good sign. That's promising, and
how about the pricing on a coaster or something?
Now, the pricing on a coaster, and that's. I'm sorry for being a little bit long here, but
No.
for instance, we at Intamin, and also I think that counts for Dynamic or for Vekoma or for Mac Rides, whatever. We normally have pretty long lead times, especially pre-COVID. It was 2 years and 2 years plus. And that is the reason why we got through really, reasonably well through 2020. But now we are confronted, and we have contracts, firm prices, which have been negotiated way back. And now we have to procure, and we are confronted with a pretty tough situation. At the same time, because the operators have felt the impact of what we all know right away, we didn't. We start feeling it, at least a good portion of us. And we now are in a situation where we have a high supply, but not as high demand. And it used to be opposite pre-COVID. And that obviously also puts quite some pressure on the price. Basically, the vast majority of suppliers, they commercially would have to raise prices, and they do it, but in a way to little extent, from my perspective, if you look at the cost situation. At the same time, what goes up must come down. And we've seen that in the past before. Commodity markets are active, and supply demand, they're gonna cross again on a more reasonable level. And I think we also see quite some speculation in the commodity markets at this point of time. But if you just look at copper, for instance, it was way above the $10,000 mark. Now it is back down close to 9,000. So to be seen. In general, I think, it's going to be tough now, because when we are committed with contracts, we have to supply, and we have to procure material. And in some cases, it's also that when you say, well, you need, let's say, 50 tons of that steel, they say, well, you can have 25, and for a ridiculously high price. So,
Let me shift to Valerio just a second, because I'm looking at your face and I see that same concern.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Just
And how do you hold that price? How do you
no,
say
that,
to
so
that
basically what we
client?
do here at Zamperla, we usually when we send out an offer, it was good for at least 90 days, most of the time 120, but 150 days, because that's how long it takes for the client to decide
Yeah.
how to move. Now we have to go down to 30 days, and we have to be very strict with it. And the keep we just we issue price list usually once a year toward the end of the year, and we just reissue the prices last week because only after 6 months, because like Sasha was saying, all the prices are going through the roof. And the good thing is that we don't. I mean, maybe in the future we will, but right now we don't build 1 kilometer long roller coaster. So the portion of the raw material in our attraction are 25-30% of the value of the attraction. So
Yeah.
percentage wise, the price is will be less challenged by the such a large increase in price. But everything else is like a container to the U.S. used to be from Italy to New York around $6,000. Now is $10,000.
Is that the
And,
shipping, Valerio?
The
or is
shipping,
that
just the shipping itself.
What
But like
I've heard,
Sasha
the
was,
price of the containers have increased dramatically.
oh yeah,
too.
even in some cases they double, because not just the freight, but also the tracking charges are being much higher. But like Sasha was saying, it went up too fast. It's going to come down, because as soon as they're going to put more vessel on the ocean, the prices will come down again, because it's not sustainable. And so you need to, how do you say, wave it with the market, and
Yeah.
and just
Flexibility.
flexibility. That's the most important thing.
How about you, Kelvin?
So,
Over
same
Dynamic,
thing.
what are you guys doing?
Well, there are a few things. One, Valero is right? Validity is 30 days. It used to have
30
a
days.
longer time because it took time. It's a high price item. They don't make decisions that much. But then, so there are some variables that you now look at it from a contractual standpoint. You try to be a bit creative to help, because there's so many things. Whether it's high demand, less supply, or now there's a lot more supply than demand. The key thing is being nimble. And we've been trying very hard to be nimble to meet each market's needs. So price validity, look at some variables that can be kind of wane off. It's fortunate that because of the long lead time, shipping costs, for example, maybe something that they could involve. They could delay their commissioning, which has happened for us.
Yeah.
Delay their orders, which has happened for us, because most of the clients now suddenly find themselves not able to have the cash reserves, right? Because once the parks close, they need their cash flow. So their capital is a bit restricted. And now that the caps go up, then all of a sudden, okay, there's some anxiety. But still, the lead time needs to be there. One of the things I found is that a lot of the designs and the way it's done may change. We all talk about the per caps going up.
Yeah.
And the per caps go up because right now there's the whole ticketing system has changed in fitting the request or when you want to ride the ride.
Yes.
So operational efficiencies have gone up. So now that you have more time, you spend less time in the queue, you spend more time eating, drinking, and therefore per caps have gone up.
Yeah, and that's
So
been a major benefit.
Yeah, that's a major good thing. I mean, there's always a silver lining, right? But that also challenges in how do we do the pre-show, the load and unload. They may kind of help us to rethink a little bit, in my mind, about how we do it.
Hey, let me inject something here, and I want all three of you. And I'm going to come back to you, Kelvin, right now. This came in from 3 different operators, big companies that you know. They said, please ask the gentleman, what would you say to operators would be the most important thing for us to consider now as we look forward to the next couple of years in purchasing? I'll come back to you, Kelvin, and then I'll come to you, Sasha.
Well, one of the things.
What would you tell an operator to be thinking about right now? Be candid, guys. They want to know.
Spend the money. It's okay.
There you go.
Now,
Thank you very much, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
But seriously, I mean, like for what we do in Dynamic, our focus has been for media-based type attractions. And as a result of that, I think the ride time and the design experience is different. If the lineups are not that long now, how do we tell the story better? So it's important now in my mind that to think about the pre-shows. If there's no lineup, there's not much pre-show or preload. So that changes what I think people will start to want to redesign in what it means. When you look at it in one attraction, you multiply it by different attractions. Does it mean that currently more and more shorter queue lines, more and more space for something else, for example?
Yep.
In the media space component, the fortunate thing is that we've been doing a lot of R&D. And in the R&D, we found that, and we're quite proud actually over the last few years. We won a lot of the prizes for all the R&D best new concepts, but still, it needs to be applied. It needs to get down. So if to ask me what kind of is that, we need to, if you want to try to find an edge, then keep working on the storyline, because then all of us will try to put all the storylines together. I'm quite sure Sasha and Valerio agrees, right? You just kind of put all the storylines together and get the whole right time, closer, tighter, and it'd be more fun. It's like having fast pass all throughout.
Sasha, I'm going to add a little bit onto that question that came from those three operators and ask you when you're what would you recommend to the operators in terms of priority? And again, everybody wants to sell something, but we saw in the early 2000s after the recession, when in 2010 the pipeline filled up quickly because of Asia, because of the Middle East, and people were waiting in the queue to get their orders in. What would you say now, based on where we are 2021?
That we missed those times.
Okay. Yeah.
Get in line.
Right.
Especially the lines. Now, I think I'd like to add a little bit on what Kelvin said, and I think what more and more parks are incorporating, have actually already started last year, beside the big guys which have done that since a little while, the virtual queuing, pre-booked riding times, and constructing and designing the queuing area in a way that it is part of the experience. And I think that becomes more and more important. Yesterday, and I mentioned that in the introduction, I had the pleasure and joy to ride rides again, and one of them was our new coaster Conda at Walibi Flavo. And when I was on it, I just said there is nothing which can replace the real thing. It's when you feel the speed, the weather, everything. There's so the ride system is still a very important part on a coaster. Obviously, even more important than on a dark ride. But compared to the time, Dennis, you just were referring before in the early 2000s, things have changed, and the cost of an attraction, the ride system itself, the cost for the ride system proportionally has decreased over the years. And I think now it is at a pretty good balance, and because the focus is on the total experience, and it's on the experience and not on the ride itself. But the ride is and will remain a and from a ride supplier perspective, obviously most important part.
It's the driver. It always has been. Yeah, no question about it. What about you, Valerio?
No, I couldn't repeat what Sasha and Kevin said you, but I remember many years ago, 25 years ago, and Will Morris Pier, or some of you know these places. It was a very crowded facility, and it could put right in, it said, if they cannot walk around, they're going to go on rides. It kept saying, so buy rides and you're going to make the living. So the experience is much more important now, like Sasha was saying. And, but of course, I think right now the operator became even better operator with giving the customer a better experience, reducing the length of the queue line. And having them around the park more, and therefore spend more money on food and merchandise and other things. But probably they need to give them more attraction also, because they need to keep them busy. Now they figure out a way to don't keep them in line. Okay, So they're going to be 5-6 hours in the park. It's going to be a fantastic opportunity for the operator now that they experience this new way to do business, to keep them even happier and make them come back and spend more money. So, and I think we are on the right side of the fence, providing them the best attraction possible for what they want to spend, for what they need, be there when they need something, and business as usual. It's just gonna reopen, and then we're gonna be there.
I think two things that have happened. One thing that's happened to both sides of the industry, the operating and supply side, during this 16 months, you've heard me say we've gone back to zero-based planning. Everybody pulled out the old chip and put in a clean, fresh chip and said, what the hell are we going to do? How do we move forward? And I think it's really given the manufacturers I've talked to others, as you know. Jim Shea was on with me, I think he was my first guest. And it was interesting to hear. I've had Pro Slide, I've had Whitewater on, and some others. And they've all said they really had a chance to pull back, look at the industry, talk to the operators, and then kind of gel that, bring it together. And I think there's been a lot of that going on. And I know all three of your companies are great communicators within the industry. I'm going to keep rolling here for a second. This one came in from Dave Folk. He says, what's current lead time on a standard and custom ride? Quickly, Sasha.
What is a standard custom ride, if you ask an Intamin guy? or just
when you go to the shelf and go, okay, here it is.
Yeah. No, another nice answer we once in a while use is, it depends. So, no.
When you leave the industry, we'll get you in the diplomatic corps.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah.
But I'm not intending to do so in the near future.
There you go. Good.
No, depending obviously on the magnitude of the ride. If it is a standard ride, which we have built before.
Yeah, something you've done.
I'd say lead time is somewhere in the area of 12 months on an X-Works delivery. If you look at the whole lead time for the project, I would say 18 to 24. If it's a little bit more large scale, let's take a 1,000 meter, 1,200 meter long roller coaster. I think we are still in the 2-year scale for the entire project.
Yeah.
And
Valerio, sorry. Go ahead.
One small thing.
Yeah.
And this conditional, we do get all the materials, but at the moment, as we mentioned before, there is a real shortage on electronic parts. You just can't get them.
Yep.
Valerio,
so what you would
not
say.
true. We do smaller ride, but we go anywhere between 6 months to 1 year. It depends from the complexity of the team. But again, like Sasha was saying, the material is a pretty big problem right now, because really we cannot get commitment from our suppliers. We cannot get commitment from us.
Yeah, it is that supply chain, no question. Kevin, I'm going to ask you the same question, but somebody just sent in or Kelvin, and they sent in a question and said, anything new on Mission Ferrari? I don't even know what that is. If you could talk about it, or if you're dating Valerio, maybe you can clear that up for us.
Well, all I can tell you is Ferrari is really handsome.
Or Ferrari. Yeah.
That must be the ride.
Mission Ferrari in Abu Dhabi is one of the rides that we should be opening this year. I mean, again, we're talking about a lot of difficulties, like I said earlier, right? Because of restrictions and whether people can come in and how they can come in and try to put things together. I want to come back to the original question about lead time, right? So let's say with standard flying theater, it's
that's a good one.
For dynamic attractions, there isn't a standard because our strength comes in trying to, media base to try to create something and help you and derive that. Sure, we have standard products, but in everything that we do, we try to tweak, we try to fit your needs. I'm quite sure Sasha and Valerio understands that, right? So because of that, we're always talking about 18 months, 2 years. The fastest we can get down maybe is 12 X-Works, true. But then over in Asia, everything wants it like 9 months, 12 months. I need it fast.
Yeah.
But again, you can't have it fast, good, cheap, pick two, right? So it is a challenge. It's still valid. Yeah, good things take time.
Here's a guys. I've got questions flying in left and right here, and I'm gonna
Like
go
I
to
said, Dennis, there should be a part two.
there will be a part two with this one. I can assure you. The way they're coming in, it said, "Gentlemen, how important is the relationship between a ride manufacturer and a Parks International maintenance operation team? How do you ensure this relationship works together to ensure a solid, reliable, and safe operation at the ride?" So, has that improved or remained the same, Sasha?
I think actually that has improved also because wherever we could go, we tried to visit the parks, and in particular the maintenance department, our after sales people, trying to get a closer relationship, better understand their concerns, see where we can be of help. We also introduced something, at least for us, completely new, that we helped when it came to the annual maintenance, that we refurbished and checked everything, entire trains, shipped them to our factory from the park. That took some burden away from the operators. So the also some new activities which we would not necessarily thought about in the first place, but we then, like Kelvin and Valerio said, during the time when replacing the chip, it was one of the thoughts and ideas we had, and we approached parks, and it was very well received.
Kelvin?
Well, like I said, we did commission a ride recently by remote.
Yeah.
And I think the technology, perhaps now with the use of AR lens to try to help, there is a much closer need and relationship, because most park operators, their maintenance, they cannot be experts in all the rides. There will still be the need for support. That's why all of us, whether it's Zamperla or anyone else, even Internet, we have always annual parts and supply package. In the past, I feel that most time you say, well, we'll call you, you guys are good, so, you won't break down so much. But now, increasingly, they realize that they should keep at least a minimum spare parts list for the more frequent parts that needs to be changed. And then they have an annual package of, I'm sure all of us are happy to supply, because it creates that. And right now, from the installation right through to the relationship, there are now more than just phone calls. There's video, there's Zoom, there's AR lens. There's so many ways to try to make that closer. So I think by itself, it lends to increasing the safety deviation, the safety point, the safety standard that everybody is more conscious about, which is exactly what our industry is about anyway.
Valerio?
No, I can agree more. Yes. So the ratio between our customer, and the supplier, getting closer and closer, and there are fewer group of chain of park and fewer supplier at the same time. So the relationship is getting much closer. The only thing that I wish is that we should go back a few years, maybe 20, 25 years, when we were very, very small contract, but very long dinner. Okay, where you get to know your customer, you were spending time with them, and it was really a man-to-man business, and dinner was much more important when you were signing the contract. Okay, now unfortunately we got this super large contract, and sometimes we never put them out at the end of the day. So that would be my only wishes. But as far as the relationship with our clients, they're getting better and better thanks to all these new technology available, and that we all use.
Here's an interesting question. It's come in twice. Different, same point of view. It says, for your three companies, your big exhibitors around the world, how expensive has it become for you all to set up booths at all the various international shows that have been happening and have been expanding? Has it been worth it, or would you rather see a hold where it is or a consolidation? Sasha?
Well, to the first question, it definitely had been worth it. And I think, because, otherwise we would not have exhibited for instance, all the three big IAPA shows and then some a few other regional shows also in China. It was worth it. The market justified the expenses we had. Now the situation is a little bit different. I think trade shows will still be out there because we as manufacturers and suppliers, we do need places where we can personally engage with our clients. And whether it needs to be in such big scale exhibition halls and at that format is to be seen, because even pre-COVID in some industries, for instance, the automotive industry, more and more car manufacturers did not exhibit anymore. And
yeah, we've seen the big shows go away.
yeah, you saw the same thing.
Geneva and all of those. Yes.
Yeah, luxury watches, for instance, same thing.
Yeah, interesting.
We fortunately were not confronted with that development yet. But now I think, yeah, everyone involved in trade shows has to look at the business model. I think there's definitely a need. They cannot be replaced. And the personal exchange and engaging between suppliers and operators, that is, I would say, even mandatory. But does it need to be, or will it be at the same scale? I have my doubts.
Mm-hmm. Valerio?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, for instance, if you think about that, IAPA, in the one in November, the one in the United States, for 2020, they were thinking to double the size, basically, using, or almost double the size, using the two different halls. And I don't think they're going to need that in 2021 or for a couple of years more to come, because there will be restriction in travel and so on. So that threshold in our industry will still be very important. Okay, yeah. And for Zamperla in particular, we always use the threshold to propose our latest attractions, since size-wise we're able to do that, and we're still going to do that. But again, like I agree with Sasha, it will have a big changes, at least for a few years, and we don't know if we'll ever go back to where it was.
Yeah, Kelvin, what's your
My answers will be very short and quick. Trade shows, very important, because our business is quite specialized, and therefore there's a long journey for the buyer to understand. It's not just buying about a ride or something else. We all know that. So the trade show allows them to be immersive in an environment that you can learn about many other aspects about buying for a show. So the trade show is always important. Yeah. The question is, do we need, and the expense is always worth it, because it really needs time for them to walk about, shop and talk, and gives us a chance to feel mutually again. But the question again, with COVID, that's going to be around for a while, and different countries having different travel restrictions, freight costs going up and down all over the place. The question is, do we need that many, or do we consolidate? My feel is that it is difficult to decide where to consolidate, but it certainly would mean that there's a need to make that show a bit more thought through. I mean, it's not always about numbers of people coming.
Yeah, it's quality.
In a recent trade show that I've been here in China, almost very few visitors. It had so many of us sitting down, really talking to each other, because we're not seeing each other for a long time among all the suppliers. So, but yet you're very, very big booths, but nobody in the booths. So traffic is very important to a trade show organizer, but yet at the same time, how do we keep the trade shows going and keep the education going and the face-to-face? That should be the deeper consideration. And then we can follow the trend of travel per se to allow for that to happen.
You know, the long-range plan, when I was involved with that years ago for IAPA, was to expand the international market, which we've done, bring in more countries, which we've done, bring more international representation to the board of directors, which has been done. And one of the other things was that, and this was before any regional shows, the only thing that was happening at that time was IAPA. And it was to create the regional shows that make sense for people to ship less, travel less, have less expense. And we've heard on the I'm for Fun podcast from some of our previous guests who are going to be in the chairs coming up in the future that there is going to be a huge emphasis on that regional aspect of presentation. As you say, all three of you, we don't know what it's going to be like in 2 years and what this lingering impact of COVID is going to be in travel as it relates to shipping your booths, getting a hotel, getting on an airplane. You could make a reservation and have it cut out. But if it's closer to home, whatever that may be, for the operators and visitors, I think we're going to see a lot more of that as we do. Here's another question for all three of you. It says, what's the most challenging aspect of what each of you do for your respective companies? Valerio?
Wait, I will sell more. How
Sell
about that?
more?
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
That's your most challenging, right? You need to sell.
Need to sell more. That's it.
Any secrets internally you want to share?
We're only,
I'm kidding.
we're doing good things. We're doing good things, so we're gonna sell more, and we're gonna be even more focusing on the special part of the market, like water ride coaster. That they always make the big difference, and for the gate of the operators. Okay? So that will be our goal.
Kelvin?
I think the two biggest challenges for the company to deal with during the pandemic has been delayed remobilization and commissioning programs. Because of that, it has increased our costs tremendously, and to try to keep the 8 jobs that we have ongoing towards the opening was a huge challenge.
Uh-huh.
And at the same time, like what Valerio says, there's a huge reduction in bidding opportunities, right? Because everybody's holding back their capital expense program, and that if our lead time is 1.5 years, and we take away the entire 2020 and most of 2021, that's an entire cycle of orders that has to be dealt with. So, but I think that a silver lining is along the horizon. Hopefully, beyond politics, everybody does more magically sound, factual understanding of this whole thing, and allow for us to come back to some form of sanity. And then perhaps we'll be able to balance everything else a little bit.
We've never been sane in the industry, but that's okay.
We should just have our conversation continue with masks.
Yeah, there you go. Sasha, same thing to you. Most challenge.
I couldn't agree with both Kelvin and Valerio more. I mean, the challenges we are facing, I think we touched many of them during today's podcast. And yes, personally, selling more. And the good thing is that my colleagues and myself working in sales, we do get the needed ammunition. We are rolling out a new and an upgraded product, starting with sending out some teasers by the end of this week, and that's continued. So there are going to be a lot of new things, and I'm sure that will have a good impact. And at the same time, with the way we are set up, what we are doing, we at Intamin, we are also at a fortunate situation that we once in a while get really large projects, passing by, falling in our hands, and then fighting for. And since we have a problem with saying no, it looks like that at this very special and challenging situation, we are in such a fortunate situation, and
the end. Yeah. Okay. The guys, I've got so many. We are going to do this again if you're willing. We're at almost the end of the hour. It's coming up, and I'm going to go to you really quickly on this. You can answer it quickly. When do you see the industry getting back to pre-19? How many years? Sasha?
For us, I see that being in 23 as a ride supplier. For the operators, I think 22 full scale, some eventually when it comes to the bottom line already this year.
Kelvin?
I agree with Sasha, probably 23, 24 for supplier side. I mean, in terms of the order length and everything
Yep.
else. Most of the people I know and I talk to, they are now starting to breathe again. So I think by the end of 2021, they will take a little mid pitch and then decide exactly what they adjust again. And I think most people should be fine by 2022.
Valerio?
Yeah, operators 22 and for us 23. So 100%.
So we're in a couple of year window. I mean, we're not out
Exactly.
beyond 2025 at this point. And we're assuming, and I think you're taking into consideration your comments, that we don't have some catastrophic event that blows
Absolutely.
up again, right?
We had enough of that.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
that's for sure. For sure.
I'd like to add
Sasha.
one more point though. I find
Yeah,
that
please.
during this time, I found that during this time, a lot of collaboration has increased, even among the supply chain, right? So
Mhm.
everybody looking around trying to see what else can we do. So the collaboration has become tighter. The phone calls are quicker in terms of say, hey, I need help in this. Can you? And I find that that speaks very well about our industry and our fraternity.
Yeah.
As much as we are all in it for fun, this is a serious business. And it's only through times like this that we start to really filter out the really good ones and those who try to be. But we always encourage everyone else to be. So again, coming back and circling it, trade shows are important because that's how we all became friends. We see each other every year for the last
Yeah.
30 years. My goodness, I don't even see my ex-girlfriend that much.
That's good. Your wife's Sasha, last comment. How would you sum up your comment right now? What do you have to say? Before we hang up, what would you say?
Thank you for having me with you, Dennis. Thanks for the invitation. Greatly
You're welcome.
appreciated. And like you mentioned to the three of us before, time is flying by. That probably was one of the shortest 60 minutes I experienced. And
Yeah.
it was a real pleasure being on together with Valerio and Kelvin, and obviously you, our host, Dennis. Thanks a lot.
Valerio, give you one last shot here.
Difficult. Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Kelvin, for this fantastic hour.
谢谢大家，谢谢 Dennis, Valerio.
Grazie mille, grazie mille.
Fugazi.
Vielen Dank, vielen Dank.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Dennis,
Grazie mille.
I feel that there should be a part two. If the result of the questions that come by,
Yeah.
I'm quite sure that will be more. I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of Valerio and Sasha, but I'm quite sure that part two will get us to dive into more intensively about the rest of the questions about what about the other creative ways. What else is new? What is it that we need to focus during this time?
Yeah.
Is it more expensive rides, or when you say creative, what do you mean by that? So
Well,
kind of look
let me tell you, we've never had this many questions, and I chose you three individuals and companies because of your respect in the industry, and I knew that you would be candid with your comments, which you have been, and respond openly. So I really appreciate that. It's been great having you three on. Don't hang up yet. I'm gonna talk a little bit about what's coming up on our upcoming guests. I don't have time to go through everybody, but our next guest is going to be a gentleman you three know, John Riley. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Palace Entertainment. As you know, they're leading park operator with Parques Reunidos out of Spain. John oversees the portfolio of the U.S. parks, including their theme parks, their children parks, their water parks. So we're going to get a good cross-cut of operational information for John. He brings over 30 years of experience to the podcast. He got his start at Busch Gardens in Virginia, and was with the SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment for many years, and was really the guy who got the SeaWorld, I think, back on the proper track here in the last 24 months before he left. So John and I are going to be discussing what the Palace Group has learned over the last 18 months, as well as Parques Reunidos, and how they're best positioned to ensure the successful operations in the year to come. So in closing, just want to say to all of our viewers and listeners out there what I said earlier. If we don't have fun, how can we sell fun? That's what it's all about. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. We certainly found that out during the last 16 months with crazy things that have happened. and we work in a great industry. We don't put smoke in the skies, and we don't pollute the rivers and streams. At the end of the day, what we really do is we put smiles on people's faces, and we make memories that last a lifetime. And without your sector, the manufacturing sector, and the creativity that Intamin, Dynamic, and Zamperla brings to the forum and the industry, billions of people wouldn't have those memories and smiles. So, gentlemen, I want to bid you adieu. Thank you very much, and we will do this again. I'll be in touch. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.